God bless you. This is Pastor Andre Mitchell with my good friend Stephen Mitchell from Stephen Motivate. What's up, my brother? What is up?
God bless you, Bishop. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing wonderful, doing wonderful. We are doing a special live session, live holiday session. Hopefully, everybody had a wonderful holiday.
Yes, Merry
But
Christmas.
let us know what you are doing, what's going on, where you at. We are normally not in this space,
Yeah.
but we are in the Deliverance Temple space. And
Home.
So,
There's no place like home.
so why are you home? What brought you this direction?
Well, first giving honor to God
Yes.
who has brought me thus far. No, I'm home because, home, as they say, is where the heart is. It doesn't quite feel like Christmas unless I come home. Now, we won't be coming home next year. I've already decided. But it's important for us to be around our family and our loved ones. And my family is, known more for gathering into large. I've even gotten compliments from people to say, "Man, your family's always doing something, always getting together," and it's like, really? But I think it's a good thing. It's a rare thing to really come together with your family, and I'm seeing my nieces and nephews grow up so fast, and it's like I got to get home to see them and before they're completely, in what America would call adulthood, and so it was necessary for us. It really makes the Christmas holiday season really complete to come home.
That's good. So let me ask you, since home is family, what about when family comes to you? Does that feel like home, or does it still feel like something's missing when you're not in the physical location?
Maybe a little bit. Our family hasn't come to us that much yet, so it's not. We have. It's happened a couple times, and it feels really cool when it happens because it's something new, it's something different, and you're trying to make sure everyone feels sort of welcome and know what to do or what activities. Here is just a little. It's a little maybe less stressful because we kind of already know what we're doing. We're gonna come be around each other. Folks are gonna come by Mama's house, or we'll go by each other's houses here or there, or we'll play a little Scrabble. It's the weather's a little colder. There's something, and my home is a little bit bigger than the home I grew up in, so it's not as close quarters, but there's something about being in close quarters that makes you feel close and makes you really enjoy the holiday season. So I think my girls are liking the fact that we've all been sleeping in the same bed for the past 5 days. They love sleeping in our bed anyway, but I'm anxious to get them out. But I'd say that's the difference is just that, being here is just, I don't know, it feels like you kind of go into autopilot when you're back home a bit versus when you're doing in a new space.
Yeah, so there's a
Adjustments.
certain sense of nostalgia
Yeah.
that comes with it. So that leads me to this question: since this is the holiday season, many people have lost loved ones, and so that makes the nostalgia. It changes the nostalgia, makes things a little more difficult. And so I want to frame a question to you around this particular space. So, what does it feel like coming in this space with our Father now gone on to glory? Is it a happy thing, a sad thing? Does it take away some of the nostalgia? Does it shift holidays? How does that feel for you?
Yeah, it's still taking some getting used to. There is a mix. It's always good to be around family because even though he's not here, in some ways you still feel his presence. You even like if you doze off. I swear, since I've been here, I've dozed off a couple times, even at Mom's house, and I felt like me and Dad were talking about something, or he called, or and then I was getting his old car moved, and I saw one of his old chaplain badges, and it's just like little things that make you happy and sad at the same time. You're smiling like, wow, that's really cool. And you're like, man, he's not here. That stinks. And so it's a mix. And I think as you deal with it, that's what you have to do is deal with it. You've got to figure out how is this going to either propel me, which is what I choose to do. How can this propel me? How can I man, it makes me think I got to get some more stuff done because it's something Daddy would have wanted, right? And without him being here, it's like I got to carry on that baton, and so it's inspiring in that way. And or you can let it kind of make you reflect and be a bit sad, which I think some of that's healthy too.
Yeah.
You need to be sad a little bit. You need to cry. We were watching some movie on the plane the other day, and the young girl's talking about her parents getting divorced, and her grandpa says, "How do you know they're getting divorced?" He's like, "Because they never fight. It's always perfect. They never have an argument." And that for that little girl was like, it just doesn't seem real. So I think the sadness kind of represents the fight with emotions and the fight with like I don't think you want to completely wallow in your emotions, right? You don't want to completely lose yourself and man, this stinks, it sucks, I'm sad, I don't want to be here. Like there's got to be some tension there of I miss my dad and I hate that he's gone and I hate that we have to have Christmas without him. But at the same time, I know that it would make him proud that we are continuing to gather together, that there's still stuff to live for, that there's stuff that he stood and for and that was important to him that I can now teach my girls or live through them and remind them, hey, your pawpaw was here, or this is what it was like, or this is a scripture he liked. Like there's certain things that you can also fight through. And so for me, it's a little bit of both. And, I'm happy with the tension. I think it's a good place to be, not to, I'm all super happy or I'm all super sad. No, I think there's a good tension of sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm sad. And it does change it. It is different, but it's not necessarily bad or the difficulties that come with it being different is not necessarily something that I resist. It's something I embrace.
I like that phrase. I don't think I've ever heard that phrase before. Happy with the tension. I like that phrase. That might be something I can steal and borrow. And to give myself a shameless plug, on last Sunday when we were preaching what would have been the service right before Christmas, I started back at the first time we see Bethlehem in Scripture. It's actually tied to a sad time that could be a happy time. It was Jacob's wife, Rachel, who was bearing his last son.
Yeah.
And she was going to call him Benoni, which is mean from my sorrow.
Yeah.
And he changed his name to Benjamin. And I talked about the fact that you start off by surviving. What we were doing, it was called A Star is Born.
Yes.
And so we were talking about stars, and so I was breaking each letter down. I like to do that often in my teaching. So the S was survive. So the first thing Jacob was going to have to do was survive the loss of Rachel, the woman that he loved, bearing his child. But the fact that he was shifting from the sorrow, he was embracing the sorrow. He had to embrace the sorrow. But he was saying, I'm going to change his name to Benjamin because not only am I going to survive, I'm going to thrive.
Right.
So there's a mixture there. There's a happy tension. I got to deal with the sorrow. And if I'm a real human being, people I love, it's going to affect me.
Yes.
Somebody said that what real grief is love with no place to go. You have this love for an individual that you can no longer express it like you used to express it.
Right.
It changes, shifts. So that brings the grief, brings the sorrow, brings the longing, the missing, the reminiscing, the nostalgia.
Right.
All those. But then there is that other tension is how do I thrive in this?
Right.
How do I thrive? Now, for me, it's a little different in the sense that I feel like I'm grieving Dad a little bit more now because I was pastoring while we were burying him. I had to, the fact that he was so many of the people's pastor, I felt like I had to pastor the people and then grieve a little bit later, simultaneous. I try to do a little bit both of that, but I've lost so many members, period, that it's brought a different type of thing. Like every time I lose another member, I feel like I want to call Dad and talk to him about, like, man.
Right.
And I was like, wait, I can't call him. He's not here. So that's been a little different. But as I had talked about thriving on last Sunday, I hadn't even thought about this because I haven't been doing the whole rhyming year thing in a long time.
Yeah.
But I thought about thriving in 2025 or thrive in 2025.
Right.
Like making a concerted effort that I'm going to choose to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that the other stuff won't be there, but like you said, there's going to be a happy tension. I'm going to take some time to grieve, to have sorrow, just to be human. But I'm going to choose those steps where I'm going to thrive, and I'm still going to win in certain areas, certain seasons. I'm going to make it a choice to win. Now, when that happens, you get up to the plate and you swing. Sometimes you do strike out.
Mm-hmm.
You do get up and say, "This is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it." And you have a
Get
day
crushed,
from hell.
right?
Yeah. But get back up the next day.
Yeah.
His mercies are new
Every morning.
Great is his faithfulness. And so, as long as I'm breathing, I have another chance to get up, to go after it, and I'm looking to thrive. In other words, I'm swinging for the fences every single time.
Yeah.
May miss. Now, in the missing, you do have to sometimes, using the baseball example, you have to go and study film,
Right.
see why you miss.
Yeah.
But the whole point, every time you get up there and you swing, I'm not super baseball fan. Well, I used to pay attention more, but now my life is too hectic. I don't have time to pay attention to every sport.
Right.
So I just pick a few, maybe basketball and football. But I did pay attention to the World Series this year, and it's a guy who got hot, Freeman, and he hit all these home runs in the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
But they mentioned that he had been in a slump,
Mm.
like 47 games without a homer, or the last, I think baseball's like 180 games, 160, something like that.
Yeah.
So for the last
Wow, is it that many?
quarter,
Jeez.
the last 33%, he was in a slump.
Yeah.
But in the big moment,
Right.
he broke out of it.
He broke out of the
So the
slump.
question is not what he did in the big moment, is what he did when he was slumping.
Yep.
Did he go through the happy tension? Did he keep practicing? Did
Yeah.
he keep working on it? And sometimes that's just going to be my mindset, my motto is that it may suck, but I'm going to keep swinging.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a quote from Kenny the Jet just today, I think, that said, "Successful people do every day what unsuccessful people do occasionally," something of that nature. And it's like, yeah, whatever that Freeman guy was doing during the slump, to stay consistent, to keep coming, to keep showing up, to keep putting in the work, helped him get through that season, and then likely led him into his next season of success when it mattered the most. And so I think even with the grief thing, I'm learning that, like, there's seasons of everything. And I don't know if this is healthy or not. Maybe you can tell me. But it's like I see now that my dad is gone, I almost see everything ending. It's like I can see my children getting older and they're still just 2 and 3.
Yeah.
I see my nieces and nephews, and now, that maybe because I saw them when they were young, and I'm just hitting this season where I'm like, oh, I've now seen kids go from kids to grown-ups and not really, and I've seen it before, but it's different when it's really, really close to you. And so it's like the way I'm almost dealing with it is like, and this is something that George used to say, is everything is happening now. Like it's all happening. It's the season you're in is either about to end, or the one you want to be in is about to start. And so there's this constant shifting of seasons, and it's like, what am I doing to thrive in the season I'm in now? Because it's ending at some point. I've got amazing business deals happening right now, but it's like, and I don't mean like in a negative way. I just mean like in a realistic way. Like it's going to end at some point. And what am I doing to set myself up for the next season when that ends? And it's almost like, I guess, planning for retirement. At some point you're not going to be able to. When you're 70, you can't lift 50 pounds like you used to be able to lift it when you were 50 or 30. Like there's just seasons, and you've got to prepare for that next season. And so I see myself now through the grief process. I'm like, okay, things are. One day I'm going to be old, And so, what am I doing now to prepare for that next day? Or one day I'm not going to have this many employees. I'm going to have that many. Or, and so again, I don't know how healthy or unhealthy it is to be seeing things that far ahead because I know you want to live in the moment. But I also think that it's just whether you're in a slump or a season of success, like your next season's coming.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
What's interesting, my best friend, a pastor, or not a pastor, he's a worship pastor, but he's also a preacher. He's from Mansfield, Ohio, but he's currently in Fort Wayne. But we met through our job in Marion, and we just stayed really connected. Well, unfortunately, just before Christmas, his mother passed away, and so he reached out to me, and he came to our dad's funeral. Just really was there for me in my season. Now he's going through that season, so that was kind of crushing. But something that he said that just lifted me in the sense of what you're saying triggers me in thinking of it. He talked about how much his mother had already taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you lose people, especially around the holidays, that's just hard.
Yeah.
But the fact that she had prepared so much that the family is not scrounging around to take care of it. It's been laid out. Like she knew that she had a season that was ending. And when you're faith people, you always expect to live more.
Right.
But somebody said it this way. You said you have to live like you're going to die tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to plan like you're going to die in 100 years.
Right.
Meaning you live for the best moment today now, but you plan ahead.
Yeah.
And it's a duality of being in this season, but planning for the next. So just in case, as the old people would say, or as the scriptures say, Lord willing, if I live, this is the plan.
Yeah.
And the fact that I've seen it so many different ways, especially when you lose someone around the holidays. But if they don't have things in order,
right,
and now you got to come up with all this money, and you're trying to buy for Christmas and all of that, how much it adds so much weight. But she had taken care of a lot. Now she had some health scares here and there, and been able to overcome it. But she took the warning to, hey, I'm not going to allow my family to struggle.
right.
I'm going to have things take care. I'm going to save up. I'm going to already tell them what I'm supposed to be buried in. This is who's supposed to be speaking.
Right.
So it takes so much off of the family. And so like that's a lot of wisdom in that.
It really is.
But the reason why it's hard, and like you said, it may be negative, is because it feels negative to think about death. But when you're God people, the scripture says we don't die, we sleep. We sleep in one age and we wake in another age. We go from one realm to the other.
Right.
But since this is the only realm we know, we just live for this realm and we don't make any plans for that next realm. But that sleep is like that. You go sleep in one and wake up in the other. And if you're not prepared for the other realm.
Yeah. It really, this is something, and you know about this, but got a chance to talk to Dr. Darius, and one of the things that he talked about, and in the program I was in, he talked about this, but an ideal week and how to be more planned and intentional with your week. And this is one of the first things they talk about. And the reason he talks about it is because the success or that thriving we want to see in 2025 or in any season, in this life or in the next life, is really tied to how do you really, squeeze out, really get all of the, I guess the juice out of the lemon, right? How do you really get the most out of every day, the most out of every week, the most out of every season? And I was, I guess, grounded in the fact that having an ideal week and being planned out and being intentional about what you want to do with your life, what you want to do with your day, what you want to do with whatever season you're in is so much like God. like God, and this has always been a burden for me to do things in order and to do things, the right way and to be prepared and to be planned out. But we kind of grew up in a era or in a dispensation of sense where things were kind of just whatever will be, like let the Lord have his way sort of thing. And I think there's some truth to that. There is a season for that. There is something to that that's good. But I think there's another season where if you're talking about success in this realm, in this the way we think of it, having things put together, being planned out is very much the will of God. And if you're really going to thrive in 2025, at least for me, this is certainly because everyone may not be in this season, but I know that I'm coming into a season where if I'm going to thrive, I've got to do those things that I was convicted about years ago. Because if you talk to my team right now, they'll be like, we are the most disorganized, unorderly. We don't know what's going on. Things are kind of shoot from the hip. And, that's a whole nother story. But for the season that I got to, it was kind of like that. Okay, we'll just do whatever we need to do. But for the season where I'm going, for the thriving that I want to see happen, I've got to get my ideal week planned out. I've got to really manage my schedule, my time, because I think what God is going to be having me manage, it'll crush me if I'm not. It'll crush my family. It'll crush me. It'll crush everything if we're not, okay, here's our schedule. Here's what we're doing. Here's when we're doing it. And so I'm very much interested this year in really how do I make my ideal week really my ideal week, and not just say I want things but not really be doing those things. Not just say I want a good marriage, but I'm not really doing date night. And I say I really want to have a great relationship with my kids, but I'm always too busy to give them a bath or to read them a bedtime story or whenever I can fit it in. How do I tie these things more closely together? And it really starts with, okay, what does a week look like, especially for my schedule, And so these are the things that I think, at least for me, and I think it's helpful to some of our audiences, like, what can we do to be more intentional and be more planned out? And just the revelation of, like, this is like God. God is into this. This is not outside of God to be planned out. It's not outside of God to keep a schedule. And I love the way Darius broke it down, but he just broke down, the creation story, breaking out, God could not create man before he created earth or before he created air. He didn't create fish before he created water because fish have to live in water. So it is actually, reinforced to us that, our God, the one we believe in, is a planner. So the more I step into, okay, what are my plans? What will happen when I die? How will my family? It's like, these aren't outside of God. This isn't morbid. This is actually a part of God's will. And to your point, the ultimate planning is to say, all right, God, I accept you as my Lord and Savior. Now, I know that I'm going somewhere. I'm already planning my future, my eternity by accepting you, on earth.
Yeah, making that. And I was thinking as you were talking, even before you mentioned that Dr. Darius had talked about the creation, I thought about what you said about let the Spirit have his way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am by nature a little more carefree, less rigid. Our father was like that, a little more go with the flow.
Yeah.
But the scripture says that darkness was upon the face of the deep, and then it says the Spirit hovered over the waters. So the Spirit did show up. And the Spirit did move. It hovered over the waters. But right after the Spirit showed up, then God began to structure and reorganize.
Whew, that's good.
So if the Spirit keeps showing up and you take no strategic actions and no strategic steps, then you are just okay with the Spirit in chaos. And some people are.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people in church stay dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Because they feel the Spirit hovering, but they don't do the creative steps after it to begin to organize and structure.
That's so good. Wow.
And so I thought about my own self. My life is quite hectic. Being a pastor, working midnight shifts, still being a parent, a husband, author,
Yeah.
preacher,
Podcaster.
yeah, podcaster now. So I have a lot going on, but I managed to read through the Bible every year. So that's 66 books. I managed to read another 25 to 30 books on top of that.
Yeah.
Last year I added school, and
Yeah.
so I have a 4.0 in school. So even though I'm a kind of carefree type of person, I've had to make certain structures, certain things. I have to make certain decisions because my day will get away from me.
Right.
And one thing I've learned is what has helped me is I have to set boundaries with other people
Yeah.
because people are attracted to the anointing that you carry. As our old friend would say, the burden removing, yoke destroying power of God.
Yes.
So when a person needs counseling and you're good at counseling, they will keep calling you and leaning on you for counseling, which means you're good at what you're doing.
Right.
But if you give all your effort to them, then something is falling, something is dropping.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to set boundaries. Okay, I'm going to meet with you, but for an hour.
Right.
I'm gonna meet with you, but for 2 hours. I have. So when people ask me, well, can you come and talk to me? Yes, I have from 8 to 9.
Yeah.
If you show up at 8:45, that's not a problem. But we only got 15 minutes
We got
left.
15 minutes and that's it.
And that used to be hard for me, but I learned I've got too much going on.
Yeah.
If I don't make some strategic choices, then I'm going to be what I was talking about. I'm going to be the dysfunctional person. Yes, the Spirit is going to be
And
hovering over
and
my
the spirit
waters.
is still there. Yeah, the spirit is still there, but it's there at that level, and it's like we can't neglect the fact that there might be other levels, you know. And even when I was talking to Darius, he said the same thing that he's not like this naturally. He's not good at it. His tendency is not to be as structured as he now is.
Mm-hmm.
But he was talking about him and his wife are in September. We're planning out 2025. And I thought to myself, wow, that seems cool, but it's probably not just cool, it's probably necessary
Yeah.
because of what you're managing. If you're managing churches across different states and you got over 2,000 plus 4 different services every Sunday, it's no longer it's like work. It's no longer maybe we'll do it this way. No, when you go to your job, there's most jobs that have been around a while, they have a certain way things must be done. And it's the same thing with our lives when you think about that ideal week. If people want to pull on your gift for pastoral leadership, and it's like, yeah, but in my ideal week, I've got 1 hour to 2 hours I can do this, and that's it per week. I can't go over that because at that point you're starting to mess up other things and it's throwing off. And so that's one of my goals for 2025 is like, okay, what does my week need to look like for me to thrive? Like for me to really make sure I spend time with my wife, for me to really make sure I spend time with my children, for me to do well on my 9 to 5, which I've got a new 9 to 5 now. So I've got to allocate time to that. And for me to allow the businesses that I run and that I'm a part of to function at a high level too.
Let me add this. I just thought of it as you were talking. What do you need to do with your week so your week won't be weak?
Right. That's good.
So what do you need to do with your WEEK so your WEEK won't be WEAK?
Right. And that's the biggest, to me, when people get that, and this again, it's not for everybody. It's for people that are doers, that you have a lot of responsibility on you, or that this is endowed in you. Like there's some people I'm just noticing it ain't for you to do all that. It's just not God. That's not your dispensation. Do what you need to do. And so I'm learning that myself because now that I'm hiring people and got people working with me, I'm noticing, everyone don't want to work the way I work. And they don't have to, right? Because, everyone doesn't have to like grind, right? I'm learning that too. Like grind ain't necessarily the will of God. And be lazy ain't the will of God. It's an in-between where what is ideal? How do I still keep God first and grind? Mm-hmm. How do I still keep my wife first and grind? And so, but I'm learning everybody's not like that. But I think it's a key thing to get strength in your week because before you know it, another year will have gone by, and you're not. And one thing we're going to be teaching a lot this year that I'm excited about is building a firm financial foundation. And I'm working with some people to help take the Stephen Motivate brand and really try to coach people on. Because I'm noticing now that the stuff I'm doing is working for me personally. I'm saving every week automatically. And again, so that becomes a part of my ideal week. Well, every week I'm going to take $100 and not just saving, but investing it. So I've got $100 every week, and I do more than that, but I'm just using that for an example. I'm noticing how that's building. And now when I want to do a trip or vacation, which I like vacations, I think most people do, but now it's not coming at such of a drain. It's not like, oh man, we vacation, now we gotta, eat ramen noodles for the next year. But it's no, I've set up my week in a way where anytime I get money, it goes to a certain place. When I get time, it needs to happen the same way. When I have time in my day, it needs to go to certain places. And so now, all these things that seem kind of hokey at one point, oh, a supper time, or oh, wake up and do breakfast, or wake up and read your Bible. It's like, no, things have time stamps for a reason, or time blocks for a reason. People, I'm only going to do emails at this time during the day. I'm only going to accept calls during this time. I'm only going to respond. It's because there's an efficiency and a productivity to it where you start to get more out of your week than what you would have otherwise. And again, the more you start to manage where people are calling you, people want, hey, I certainly don't have as many people calling on me as you do, but in a similar way, I've got people working for me now, so they want to tell me what they're doing. They want to know that they're doing a good job. And many times, I don't have time for it. I don't have time to, and that's creating some issues. Because now, if I don't have time to hear what you did for me that I need you to do, but you don't get a pat on the back or any feedback, now there's tension there. He don't ever talk to us. And he didn't. But it's because I don't have control over my week, and my week is not yet ideal to where people around me don't know on Fridays is when we talk. On Friday, get every thing ready, and then on Fridays we can, but I can see how it can become crushing weak. You can have a weak week and not a strong week if you don't start putting some of this stuff in place. And I think for people to thrive in 2025, that's one thing I'm going to be doing. I think it'll help some other people.
Yeah, so
well.
I guess we don't want to be weaker in 2025. We want to thrive. But what you're talking about, I think it's good for people to know it's not all fleshed out. It's not all perfect. You're doing things on the go. You're figuring things out as you go. But as you figure it out, you begin to get better. You get stronger.
Right.
As you figure things out, as you learn. And so you have to be willing to know when things aren't working. And sometimes the only way you know that is through feedback from other people.
Yeah.
If you walk in the room and everybody gets sour when you show up, that's feedback that you need to learn from.
Mm-hmm.
But it lets me know that leadership is not one guy having all the answers top down, one woman having all the answers top down. It's a lot of learning as you go. But what makes a person a leader is they're willing to learn, but they have that goal of we're going to thrive. Okay, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use this to thrive. I'm going to use this. And I was sharing with you and your wife and our aunt earlier how I just had this thought in my mind. I got a fireplace. I got a gas fireplace.
Yeah.
Haven't used it in about 2 years just because I've been busy, been doing stuff. We also have an electric fireplace that gives all heat and electric. And I was like, we're using this electric one, and I got a real gas one that's dusty. I don't really know anything about it. And so I started looking at it, and I was like, I wonder if I can get this to work. And I couldn't, so I went to bed. But I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning, and I was like, well, I'm going to go get some Starbucks, and maybe I'll work on my sermon. Then I just had a thought. I wonder, can I fix this fireplace?
Mm-hmm.
That was 6 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, I had it fixed.
Yeah.
Had figured stuff out. Had YouTube. I was getting ready to go to Lowe's.
Yeah.
Realized I didn't have to go to Lowe's. But I took some time.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that's something I could figure it out.
Yeah.
I didn't know I could figure it out.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to have to call someone, buy something. But I had a thought, and I had a time to sit and think and say, maybe I could do it, and I took a chance. And what I did is I gave time to it.
Right.
Now, here's one helpful thing. It made me mad at first, but it was a helpful thing. Alana had stolen my charger. I posted about it on Facebook. So my phone was about dead. So I didn't have time to do a lot of scrolling like I normally would do because I didn't have a lot of percent. I had to take that phone and get directly to go directly to YouTube, go to Google, and figure out, can I fix this? And I was able to do it.
Yeah.
So the point that I'm making is you don't even know what you're capable of until sometimes situations force you, like grief. Grief will force you into things. But thriving is a choice.
It is.
It's a choice. You couldn't have told me that I could have fixed the fireplace. But I've learned this about a lot of other things. And another thing, I end up having to fix an issue with my breaker box for my electric vehicle. Didn't know that I could do that, but I could do that. So trials puts us in certain things. We don't like trials. We don't like obstacles. We don't like dysfunction. We want everything to be smooth.
Right.
But sometimes, even after we've done everything we should do, like the scripture says, let's go back to Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. He did everything he was supposed to do. By verse 2, the earth was without form and void, darkness upon the face of the deep.
Right.
That wasn't God's fault. That was something else that happened. We believe that's when Satan fell. He got kicked out, and he messed everything up. So now God has to create, recreate. And sometimes that's when you find the power that you have in you.
Right.
The ability not to be weak in a week. Sometimes it's the challenges that have pressed you to be strong. Or Joshua 1:9, be strong and courageous.
Yeah.
And he was told that after he was told, listen, Moses, my servant, is dead.
Right.
What you going to do, Joshua?
Yeah.
You're going to have to get up, and you're going to have to move forward. And you're going to have to lead these people. But I'm commanding you, be strong and be courageous. And what God was saying, yes, this is a hard obstacle, but the strength is already in you.
Right.
So let the weak say,
I am strong.
I'm strong.
Yeah.
Let's pull that strength and let's go for the thriving instead of the weakness.
And when you talk about like perfection, I think this is an ideal week is just that. It's just ideal. It just gives you a target. It doesn't mean you're going to hit the target, right? That's the whole point of it being ideal. Of this is what I think I want to be aiming at. And because I'm definitely getting away from this, whatever that was, perfectionist theory of you're going to do everything perfect. You're going to be the perfect husband. You're going to be the perfect father. You're going to be the perfect brother, son, whatever. Because you're not. It's very highly unlikely you're going to be perfect in those areas. Now, you can want to, but I think it's almost unhealthy to even we used to say strive for perfection, which some of that's okay, but I think more importantly is we just need to have the target of I'm going to continue to shoot towards a target of a successful week. And I keep coming back to that because if I could do it in a week and there's 52 weeks in a year. If I can keep doing this every week, then my marriage will be strong. Then my relationship with God will be strong. Then my relationship with myself, to your point, knowing what I can do, it's like, oh, I can do more than what I previously thought I could do. I could fix this. It's not that hard. I got to do some research. I got to dedicate some time to it. And that's another thing I think that I'm learning is how long does stuff really take? Stuff sometimes takes a lot longer than what we think it'll take in our mind. You were able to do it, but that was 4 hours. And so just realizing that, me, I'm a part-time musician. And I've been doing that since I was 14. I'm 38 now. So that's 24 years almost that I've been. Now, I'm okay. I can learn music and I can do that. But I just think about, I underestimated how long it would take for me to get where I'm at. I'm still, a musician still would not, you'd be like, oh, my goodness, let Stephen play. Because I still haven't put enough time into it consistently to do that. Now, I've got all the skills. I now have the confidence to know I can do it. But I haven't played for 1,000 services. You haven't fixed 1,000 fireplaces. But you did it one time, and you know you can do it. But again, the time it took to do that one, and there might be others that are different. but you now know that, okay, I can do this thing, but I also got to start being realistic about, okay, how much time is this really going to take? And start realizing, okay, I only have so much time in a week. I would love to be a thriving musician right now, but I also got 6 other things I want to do.
Yeah.
So my priorities and my idealness of what my week needs to look like has to be realistic to the fact that, okay, this is just, ideally, I'd like to get some music playing in every week. But with my schedule and my life, that's going to be lower on the priority list than everything else I got going on. But again, if I shoot towards that, you never know what's in you if you start to shoot towards it. And I hate the fact that a lot of us get so caught up on, oh, it's not perfect, or I can't start because and you have all these excuses, but it's not about perfection. It's about getting a target and just throwing the darts, and you may not even hit the board at first, but at least you know what you're shooting at. And I think for us to make the most of our week, make the most of our life, to make the most of our year, it helps us if in our season, because it changes. You know, if I knew this back when I was 14, maybe I would have dealt with my time a little more wisely as it came to music, knowing that I loved it and wanted to do it. Maybe I would have dedicated more time. But in the season I'm in now, I don't have the luxury of doing that now.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to, whatever time I'll dedicate for the rest of my life, it's going to have to fit into under these other priorities. And it's such a clear picture of how to produce things, of how to accomplish things, of how to, fix a fireplace. A lot of us get focused on the belief, and the belief is important, and the confidence comes after you've done it. But it also, you've got to get realistic about how much time is this going to take. And if I get more serious about that and I start to understand that better, I can get clearer about, okay, this is what it's going to take to accomplish that. Now I'm learning, okay, this is what it takes to run a X amount number team, or this is what it takes to run a church. Okay, it takes all of this, and that may be more than what we realize. And so my point is just that when you're setting up your ideal week, you've got to really not just have an ideal, I'll just take 2 hours and that'll be enough for me and my wife to have a good relationship. But in reality, you probably talk to your wife every day, but you probably don't really date her every day. So you're going to probably have 2 hours a day, plus you probably need 4 hours at the end of the week to really, so it's like, okay, now I have to dedicate about 14 hours a week just to knowing my wife. And it sounds robotic.
Mm-hmm.
It don't sound real. But again, for what some of us are being called to manage, it's necessary. And it's not really robotic. It's more so, it's honoring. Now I'm honoring that relationship by being realistic about what it takes, so I can know when to cut off my day. Okay, I can't do anything after 7 because I have then basically no time for my wife. I can't do anything. I can't go through January and not already put on the calendar, okay, each of these Friday nights, we're going to be on a date night. Because if I don't do it, one, won't have a babysitter in place, so then it'll be too late to do it. And so there's so many of these things that if we get serious about what we want out of life and we can whittle it down to a week, we can really start to get there.
So what I'm hearing you saying is strive for some things so you can start thriving in everything.
Right.
In other words, if you see where things are being weak in my week,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm going to have to strive for this. I may not hit it all, but I'm going to strive for something. I'm going to put something out there, and then I'm going to find a pace of thriving and rising. One of the things that I noticed in the things that I dealt with, there's a high level of fear. I'm dealing with fire and electricity.
Right.
And I'm not skillful at either one of them.
Yeah.
But first of all, with the electrical thing, first thing I did, I called for an electrician, and they were like December 31st. That's too late.
Yeah.
I need it. And that was like December 26th when I called.
Yeah.
So let me see what I can do. And so I didn't allow the fear, even though it intimidated me a little, which is there's a healthy level of that type of fear.
Right.
But I didn't allow it to impede me from thriving.
Right.
Once I started figuring things out, I was like, I think I know how to do this. I think I can pull this off.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try. And one thing I've learned about myself is once something gets stuck in my head, I can't function until I have accomplished it.
Right.
So at the time, I was spending time at mom's house with you guys, and the rest of the family was there.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'll be back.
Yeah.
I just got this idea. I think I know what I need to do. And then I came back about an hour later or so.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's done. But it was just on me. It's like, I think I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know the steps it takes, and I'm going to need it because it was a need. I got stuff that I'm planning on doing traveling. So with the electric car, that's my gas.
Right.
So I need it.
Yeah.
So I took time away from the family and focused on that, but then I was able to thrive. Then I was able to go back to the family and spend some time. But I missed some things because my family had left. When I was getting back, they were leaving.
Mm-hmm.
So you will miss some things, but overall, you're able to thrive. And one of the things that I told my wife was, I'm going to go and work on this electrical stuff while ain't nobody at the house, while
Right.
y'all over at mom's house. That way, if I tear something up,
Right. Y'all safe.
y'all say,
And
you know how kids are when ain't no internet, when
Right.
they don't know what to do.
the world
So-
is over.
and so let me go. And so I was strategic about it. They're all here. This will give me a chance to go, and I can see if it ain't right, I'm gonna back away. But I was able to thrive. And so I think, and as we start wrapping this toward the end of this holiday, special holiday session, just strive to thrive.
Strive to thrive.
Strive to thrive. We survive, but we got to get beyond just surviving.
Yeah, and surviving is it's to be applauded in and of itself. Surviving is important. Surviving's good. Surviving is not easy. Surviving in itself can be challenging, and it requires things, and you can be very proud that you're surviving. But to know that there's more in you, and to know, like you said, when something gets stuck in your head that maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that. And I think you've even talked about this. Some of that stuff is from God. To be burdened with something that you know you can do, whether it's something as big or small as fixing an electrical outlet when you're not an electrician. But what does that spark in you to say, man, what else can I do? What else can I be? What else can I accomplish? And that's what's inspiring, is that, you don't have to just survive. Like, there's more in you. And, everyone won't be inspired by it, but just the idea that you can play the piano, you can sing, you can fix an electrical box, you can, and it's funny because people always say, well, not everybody can sing. Well, if you got a voice box, you can sing. You might need some training. You might need to dedicate some time. You might need to watch some YouTube videos. You might need to work on the thing. But the working on the thing is the striving. Mm-hmm. And if you keep striving, eventually, to your point, you can thrive.
Yeah, and this is just a random thought. I've had it several times, but no matter where you're at, when you get in a group of people and they all sing together, it sounds good.
Yeah.
That is so weird to me. And so that's another thing about thriving and striving. If you do it with the right people,
That's a whole nother topic.
it elevates.
Yeah.
Especially, and so I'm not a fan of people talking about all the folks you got to cut off at when one year closes and the new year starts. But some of that is true.
Yeah.
Because the right people, it helps the harmony.
It does help the harmony. Wow, that's a great way to put it. And it's funny because we just, went to Aruba, and some of my friends was giving me flack. I don't know if they were serious or joking, because they was wondering. It wasn't my trip, first of all, but people were acting like it was. And, hey, why didn't you tell me da-da-da-da-da? But I'm not a big fan of cutting people off either, but what I've been saying is people end up falling off. People, the more you thrive, the more you go into what you're called to do in that season, everybody can't always go, and that's okay. What God has for you is for you, and that's fine. What God has for you won't miss you, and that's fine. It won't miss them, if they step into that. And the other thing that I'm learning, I made a post about this on social media, is teams. and this is what this is another season of 2025 for me where teams are super important to my thriving because I'm having to learn how to get work done through others, number one. It's forcing me to really evaluate my leadership, number two. And then there's levels, like, because sometimes the people that are working for me aren't necessarily the people that are working with me. Sometimes it's like the people that are at a certain level, they can inspire me. I can be blessed by them. I can be re-energized by them. But sometimes the people working for me, I'm not getting that. It's a tug. I'm trying to pull you to do it at a certain level or at a level of excellence or to represent the brand the right way. And so I think your point it creates a whole other topic that we should touch on at some point as we go through the year, and we do pop-ups and, we podcast and talk, but just developing teams. And I heard the guys say about an entrepreneur is not just somebody who builds businesses. Like a person that builds businesses is really I don't know what he called them, a business person, or sometimes could be a sole entrepreneur or a solopreneur, I think is what they call them. But people who build teams and can go through because it's excruciating. What I'm finding, at least, it's excruciating for you to pay somebody money and they still don't give you what you want, or they still don't operate at the level you want them to operate at. And it's like, what in the world is this? This is crazy. Why? And then it's like, why would you just fire them? But it's like, it's not that easy because it's hard to replace people. Mm-hmm. It's hard to find people, and it's hard to replace people. And then when you got people, it's hard to get them to thrive at the level you want them to thrive at. But he just talked about real entrepreneurs build teams, and they find a way to get work done through others. And I'm like, oh, this is the difference. This is what can, when I talk about levels of success, and that means different things for different people, but it's thriving, and for some people at a new level will require you to have the right people around you. And that don't mean you have to cut them all off. That just means you do your thing. And some of these people you'll either have to hire, or you'll just have to be in groups or associations with other pastors or other podcasters. You got to get around the right people, but there is something about thriving that absolutely requires you being around the right people, and then you getting the right people to work with you or work for you, depending on what position they need to be in.
Gotcha, man. Well, this has been a good session. I'm glad we popped up a little bit on my turf this time.
On your turf, baby.
Appreciate it.
DT.
I would say this as we close. Reminds me of a pilot that oftentimes he will, as a course has been charted for him, he warns the passengers and say, hey, we're going to have a little rough air, but once we get to that, we're going to get to a cruising altitude, and we'll get to some smoother air. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people who are listening to us talk about thriving, they've been through some rough spots. Mm. And I want to let them know that I hear the pilot saying,
yes,
you've gone through the rough air, but it's because you're trying to get to a cruising altitude, and it's not going to be hard and harsh forever. Wow. So trust the pilot.
Yes.
Buckle up. Trust the process. Watch God work.
Watch God work. Happy New Year and happy Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Happy holidays. We love you. Thrive in 2025.
Peace.
God bless you. This is Pastor Andre Mitchell, also known as Rev Andre M.
Stephen Motivate. Until next time, peace.
Peace.